Hello and welcome to Paradigm Playbook, a podcast for entrepreneurs in the business of sports. Your hosts, Dave Kozak and Steve Cook, are business owners, successful entrepreneurs, sports enthusiasts, avid readers, and longtime friends. For years, they've read every business book on the market and built successful companies with what they've learned. This podcast will give you the critical takeaways in just 15 minutes a week. It's a quick and easy playbook for building a winning sports business. And now, here are your hosts, Dave and Steve.
Did we help you learn, grow, and improve? Leave us a review to let us know how we're doing. Thank you. Good day, everyone. Welcome back to Paradigm Playbook's podcast. I'm your host, Dave Kozak, alongside my co-host, Mr. Steve Cook.
Good morning, David. We're going to dig in.
Yeah, let's do it. So today we're going to talk about the value of partnerships in business. And there are a variety of partnerships, right? There is the quintessential legal partnership, which is like owners of a company or partners that do business with each other or that are in business with each other. But I think more importantly today, we're talking about the partners that are sort of part of the business, right? That help the business grow, that expand. And I think we can talk about all of them, but there's sort of this stakeholder environment that is also a partner. There's sort of the people that are, or the other businesses that are partners and networks and relationships. So I think we can go a lot of directions in this.
Yeah. And so I think we start with a definition, and I guess that's where I was going when I said, okay, let's dig into partnerships, because in the world of sponsorship, I was having this conversation with my brother who is on the sponsorship side, and they've taken to calling clients partners and sponsors partners, and everything's a partner. Yet the sponsorship approach is a bit one-sided, whereas I look at a partnership approach as multi-sided and one where balance becomes critical.
Yeah, and I think the understanding what type of partner you have is important, right? Like one of the things that we talk about is right, you talk about the value in your brother's world of partners in terms of sponsors.
Yeah, so the sponsors in his world, normally, one's putting up money, one's putting up access. So in the world of sports, a sponsor signs on with an athlete, an organization, an event, or something like that, so they get exposure for their product, and for that they're putting money into it. So that's a typical sponsorship that's been now retermed as partnership.
Yeah, and again, I think you can consider anybody you want in some terms of partnership, right? Like it's at the prerogative of the person who is controlling the relationship or is part of the relationship to define what it means. In my world, right, I have true partners, legally bound partners that have contractual obligations to one another. At the same time, you have joint venture opportunities, right? You have organizational opportunities with people inside and outside the organization to further the message, right? I think I have like 3 levels of partners in my world, right? So I have the legally bound partner that is like we share.
That is a co-ownership of one of your businesses.
Correct.
Okay.
Then I have companies that support my business.
Let me back up one second, ask you a question. So when you have a co-owner, there's levels of partnership there as well. So there's a financial investor that, like, I had partners at Grand Slam. They weren't partners. They weren't active in the operation. They were stakeholders in that, there's money into it and there's money be gained by being involved, but that's the
extent of it, the silent partner.
So so I think there's multi-levels that are all contractually obligated, but they have different roles.
Yeah, for sure. And in the joint ownership environment, part of that is defining those roles at the onset, right? Because you can have a silent partner who has money that has no interest in managing, doing anything, or being involved in the day-to-day operation. You can also have people that have money, want to be involved, and make it painful to be involved with them, right?
Yeah.
So again, balancing partnerships is huge. So I have 2 partners in my companies besides the playbook and the consulting that we do. There's 4 of us, right? In the next level of partnership is a business to business partnership, right? Where one business, my business, operates in some fashion, and then another business operates in conjunction with my business to grow both businesses, right? And that is, you could call it stakeholders, you can call it partnerships. To me, I like the partnership environment because I don't ever want it to be where there's OZs or there's I want it to be responsibility driven to the outcome that we both agree. One of the huge points that I'll make about partnerships is it is no good to be in a partnership that does not, where everybody is not parallel, right? You don't want to be going in different directions or crossing paths and having a partnership that will create issues. So I want parallel partnerships. I want everybody I'm associated with being in parallel with me.
In parallel, but you're not saying that they're equal or identical.
No, I'm just saying we're all pulling in the same direction, right? There's a book called Essentialism. And I can't remember the author's name, but he talks about the idea of, he draws a circle with all these scribbles all over it and everything's going in all crazy directions. And then he draws a circle with all the arrows pointing in the same direction, right? That's what I'm focused on, is any partnership I'm going to get involved with, everybody's pulling in the same direction.
So the world I'm dealing in right now with multiple clients looking to launch businesses, and they're saying, yeah, I really don't want partners in this business. So, some would term a bank that's lending you money as a partner. I'm not counting that. I'm saying an actual investor that's putting money into it and is only going to get a payback based on the success of that business. And people tend to avoid those partners. And so my question is that always good, sometimes good, never good, or it depends?
Well, I think that comes down to the person in the box, right? Meaning, how do you manage relationships? How are you at communication? How are you at confrontation, right? If you have partners, I mean, think about a husband and wife, the original partner, right? You get along with your wife every single day of the world?
Of course.
Of course you do, because she's always right, right?
Yes.
The point that I'll make is every partnership, every agreement between two individuals.
I just put a new vision of a stakeholder in my head. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Every partnership it requires confrontation. It requires candor. It requires honesty and transparency.
Yeah. So the honesty and transparency, I think, as you're going to the, going into a potential partnership, I think you have to have that agreement up front so there's an understanding of what they're bringing to it. And so when you look at, like, why would you bring a partnership in? And some say, well, there's money, there's expertise, there's a skill, there's another network. There's many, many reasons that you bring a partner into your business. And as long as it's understood what they're bringing to it and what they're taking from it, then that's fine. But if they're putting money in and you think that they're a silent investor and they think they're going to help you run the business, well, then you haven't created that partnership properly in the beginning, I think.
Yeah, and from a logical standpoint, one of the things that I think is funny when people say, well, I don't want a partner in a business, or I don't want to be involved in that. First of all, I think it's foolish. That's my opinion. I'm good at that game, so it doesn't scare me. If you look at a big time startup, what's the ultimate goal of any big time startup? The IPO, right?
Yeah.
What's the IPO? Initial price offering on the stock market.
Right.
When you go to an IPO, what are you asking for? Partners.
Partners, yeah.
That's the goal of any corporation, is to get to an IPO. Well, in I shouldn't say any corporation, but that's a big ticket goal.
So the number one thing that a partner brings to any business, regardless of what their angle or what their contribution is accelerating the success. So that's what you're getting from a partner. That the whole thing is the ultimate competitors, Microsoft and Apple, both got to where they are because of a partnership, right? It's like Pixar and Disney, it's like all of these, you can go through it, and all of the biggest and best got their ultimate success through partnership. And so we've done on the podcast, we talked about expansion, growth, and scaling. And all of those come through the management of partnerships and the creation, control, the defining of that partnership.
Yeah, and I think one of the points that needs to be very clear is we go back to Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, begin with the end in mind, right? So if you don't have a vision for how the partnership is going to run and a clarity in each person's mind, you're going to run into conflict. And I am pro-conflict. I think conflict is good. Conflict, it brings things out. It forces change. It forces improvement. The alternative to conflict is what? Fester?
Yeah, unresolved problems, secrets. It's so, it gets back to the sweaty palm conversation. They're always better to have that conversation than to hide that conversation.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's because I don't know what allows me to have those conversations in plain sight. I mean, I will call it like it is, and put it out there. Hey, I feel I'm getting slighted in this deal. What are you doing? Or, hey, I don't feel like you're following through on what you promised. What's the story? I think where people get confused is how you approach that conflict resolution in a partnership, in any arrangement you have, right? If I just came to you, Steve, and accused you of cheating the partnership, right? Does that solve anything, or does that just put your dukes up and put you in a defensive position, backs you into a corner?
Yeah, I think what that conflict resolution is going to bring you is transparency. And to have success, you need accountability and transparency with all of your partners in order to get beyond whatever the conflict is. But if there is a conflict, it's usually because it wasn't resolved in the beginning,
or as it came up.
Yeah, so it wasn't discussed, and we've gone beyond it, and it's embedded now. And now we have to go back and kind of, dissect this thing and pull this piece out and get to the...
and to bring it full circle to sports, right? What is a baseball team if it's not a partnership, right? What is any team if it's not a partnership? I agree to do my job. You agree to do your job. I'm going to hold you accountable to throw strikes. I'm gonna make sure that I lay out and make that play to save the game as a shortstop, or I'm gonna make sure that I go 2 for 3 today, or I'm gonna lay down that bunt because that's what the partnership is asking me to do. Right.
So the partnership is looking at the contribution or the effort, the work that you're bringing to it, and just like if you come and deliver as advertised, you're an all-star shortstop, and in the first 12 games you make 6 errors. Okay, it's like, this isn't what I expected in this partnership. So it's the same thing. So if you have 2 companies that are partnership, this one is getting the suburban market, and this one's getting the urban market, and together we're going to get them all. Well, if it's found out that you're both really strongest in the urban market, then you haven't gotten what you wanted out of that partnership, so you have to look for other ways. And I think it happens in sports business all the time because we have everybody getting in there wanting the same thing. They want, the glory of this high-end, successful athlete, the success in the glory that comes with it, whether you're a player, a coach, or a parent. You're all looking for that, achievement thing. So if you can write your mission and vision that clearly defines it, so when partners are coming into it, they get it's as advertised.
If you know a coach, teacher, or business owner who could use our help, please refer them to us. We appreciate your support. Yeah, so I visited a company that the first company I ever worked for, Heritage Metalworks, and I visited them yesterday for the first time in 17 years, because I have things that I need. I now have an old building. I have decorative metalwork I need done, and it came full circle. And the idea in going back there was I needed the work, but the grounds that I left on, right, there was no space for me anymore, right? They were curtailing business, and they were bringing in a family member and, partner level, and things were crazy in that regard. But in going back and thinking about the partnerships that I created for that company, they have led to a great expansion in that organization, and I feel a part of it. 17-year hiatus. I never went back. And
they have a check for you?
No, they didn't have a check for me.
Right.
I'm getting some deals though.
Okay.
But the point that I'll make is if I and what we were talking about employees and the scale, and I was very impressed with their new facility and the amount of different operations that they're running now from where we started. And we had a conversation about, like, nobody cares about your company as much as you do, right? That's just the nature of business ownership. But man, how cool and how novel an idea is it where everybody cared the same amount because of that culture of partnership in everything that you did in an organization. And that has been exacerbated in, like, the ESOP companies, the companies that are employee owned. And so you start thinking about that and you go, okay, well, how do you get that culture of ownership inside of a business where people aren't willing to take the risk, right? The reason I'm the owner is because I took the risk. I put my money where my mouth was. I put it on the line. I took the loan. I started the business. I built it out. I hired the people. I gave up my own income to pay someone else. But when you come down to culture, man, wouldn't that be the best culture a company could have? Is if everybody that worked there felt they were a partner of the organization in a true and real manner.
Yeah, and I we go back all the time to different books, and this is the Daniel Pink thing, that's what people work for. They want, autonomy, inclusion. They want to be involved in this, and they want to feel a part of it. I think one of the things that's missing that helps measure partnerships is define KPI, key performance indicators of what we're judging this partnership on. And if that is set up in advance so that you know how you're going to measure this. If I'm putting my money into it and my expectation is that we're going to grow this into a $10 million business, and your expectation is we're going to produce more college athletes, then we've got to get this figured out so that we have aligned KPIs. And I think that's the culture that you need. There's got to be this kind of confluence of, part my idea, part yours, but together we own this 100%.
What do you think prevents people, Steve, from the partnership environment? From, you told the story and said, I don't really want to partner in this. What prevents people? What makes people go there?
So there's a few things. One, giving up control. Two, not wanting to have uncomfortable conversations. So I think that's, and then the third thing is ultimately thinking you're going to lose the control that you have right now. And you're going to spend more time doing what someone else wants. So they don't go through the initial, it's you talked about marriage and, dating and the whole thing. And it's, is there a dating phase to partnerships where you're really getting to know what they want? And if you flush that out in the beginning, then partnerships aren't uncomfortable.
Legally, we call that due diligence.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, but that's...
You're opposed to me calling it dating?
Yeah.
So, okay. Due diligence. Strike that. Can you edit that out?
Don't edit it out. He deserves to be held with that forever. But perfect example. Before I created Paradigm Financial Group with my partners, I had been in business with one of my partners for the last 8 years. We were good. We were bringing in a new partner, and we spent 11 months in the due diligence phase, right? Did we get everything out? Did we understand everything? No, but what we did come to terms with was that together it was better than separate. Mm-hmm. And I think if you can make that decision and you can get to that point, the rest of it is framework. But you have to get to the realization that your company is better with this or without this. And if your company is better with it, then you have to figure out how to make it work. And I think my counterpoint to your sort of what prevents people is I think egos are what prevent people in a lot of instances.
Yeah. So taking on a partner is that admitting you need help. You can't do this on your own. So if that's one of the things, but on the other side of it, it's saying, yeah, I can do it, but I can do it faster with you. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get there as long as we have this all aligned, like you were suggesting
Parallels.
before. If everything's in parallel, then we're going to get there faster. We're both going to get there, and half of what we're going to be is better than 100% of where I'm stuck if I don't move. So it's like all along, people, and I'm dealing with entrepreneurs that are coming out of this entrepreneurial seizure where they're saying, I've been doing this, I've been working for him. You know what? I'm tired of that. I want to work on my own. And so there's a big difference between an entrepreneur and a solopreneur. A solopreneur is just you. And if you're not that, and that's one person that you're going to go out and you're going to teach all the lessons, coach all the kids, you're going to do it all yourself, you're going to collect the bills, you're going to do the advertising, you're going to do everything. That's a solopreneur. Entrepreneur, in effect, you're going to have partners, whether they're internal partners that you're paying or what it is, you're going to have partners that at some point you're going to have to trust. Mm-hmm. The difference between a legal partner that you were talking about and an internal partner is, they're putting something else into it and they're expecting a little bit more out of it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think you have to come to grips with that. And I don't think true entrepreneurs are afraid of that. They may not want to give up control, but they're not afraid of taking on a partner. And it's almost never the ego thing is part of it, but the true entrepreneur is willing to bring on someone who has a superior skill, a skill, talent, And so too often we say, well, they're in because they have more money than I do initially. So that one's an easy one to understand. But it should be just as easy to bring on someone that has an expertise or a network or a skill or experience or even, one of the greatest things about partnerships is having two people with totally different perspectives on an issue. So the ability to solve problems is easier with involved partners. Now, if one, they say a joint venture is one person with experience and one with money, and when you're done, it's switched, which that's not what you want either. You want a coming together. You don't want to just, I got your money, you've got my experience now. That's not where you want to end up. You want to end up where you're working together.
Doesn't sound terrible.
Well, on one side it does. It's like, if you're struggling and I've got money, and now I've got your money and you're struggling, that's
fair enough.
That's not the right trade. But partnerships come together to form, where the combined is greater than the parts.
Yeah,
and that's what you're looking for in a partnership. That when these two
the
come
whole
together,
is bigger than the sum of the parts.
Yeah, so that's where partnerships make sense, and should be the goal of every partnership.
Yeah, like I'll use the one partnership that I think everybody has to have is the accountant, right?
Yeah.
Because I've talked about the numbers a lot in this podcast, and we've discussed the stakeholders, whatever you want to call it. But to me, that's a partnership. You're paying that person, right? But that's a partnership that has to be cohesive. That's one that has to be communicative, because they're counting the dollars and the taxation and all of that stuff. And I think, people. I've talked to a lot of business owners. God, I got to meet with my accountant. I don't want to meet with my accountant. No, you better want to meet. You better be learning along the way. I'm fortunate. My partner is an accountant.
Yeah.
My actual business partner is an accountant. So that's one thing I never have to worry about. Right? I never have to worry about counting that money. I never have to worry about what we're doing, how we're doing it. It is done, and it is done by someone who is equally invested in the business that I'm in. Right. Well, that's huge, because I can then say, hey, here's the vision. Let's go forward. He can say, whoa, that vision sounds expensive. Mm-hmm. Like, let's step this thing out. So
I that's a great point. And it's awesome to have that accountant as an actual stakeholder partner. My accountant, interesting story. I've had the same accountant or accounting firm for over 40 years, through probably 16 different businesses. But their goal was in my interest for me to grow. Now, I'm paying the accountant a little bit more than I did in year one.
Yeah.
But so they've grown with me, and they're bigger and I'm bigger, but we were aligned on where we were going. And an accountant to me is way more than bookkeeping. So it's the advice that comes along with it that makes it a true partnership.
Yeah, without question. Are you both benefiting from the relationship? Mm-hmm. That to me is the key to the partnership, right? You're both benefiting in the relationship, because then you have reciprocity. And man, isn't that what it's about, right?
And whether you're talking partnerships as in sponsorships, or partnership as in employees, or partnerships as in equal stockholders or stakeholders in the company, you need that agreement, and you need to be in parallel, and you need to have open discussion. And whether it's KPI, there's some form of accountability that you have to have, and it has to be shared accountability.
Yeah, without question. So, I think the shift that I'd like to see is that people look at everybody as the potential partnership, right? Mm-hmm. In actuality, if you have an employee, they agree to work, you agree to pay them. That's a partnership. That's a binding contract, essentially, of how things are going to go, right? Well, isn't that really what it comes down to? So, I think the value of partnerships, I don't know that we hit everything we needed to hit in it, but I think for those of you that are afraid of it or scared of it, I think you have to reconsider how you look at partnerships. Whether you want to strike it as joint venture, whether you want to strike it as a partnership, whether you want to strike it as we're all pulling the same direction. I think it's all talking about the same thing, which is culture and relationship within, right?
Mm-hmm. And if you start with the vision you have for your company, and then you have a mission or a roadmap that's going to get you there, and now put it on a timeline. And there are certain things that will accelerate the timeline for you to get from here. You want to climb that mountain, you can get there if you have, a partner that will carry some of the baggage. I climbed up Machu Picchu, and we had the guys that went with us that carried our tents for us. They're partners in our thing, and it got us to the top of that peak a whole lot faster than if I carried all my own gear.
Yeah,
that's where it is in business. It's just someone else.
The Sherpas on Everest, right?
Yeah, right. And so the partners are, that in the business, and they're going to help you get there. Doesn't mean you should, just take on anyone. You should really evaluate it. But I think partnership is a good thing in life, in business, in entrepreneurs, and in big business. The same thing in the corporate world. We had partners all the time, and keeping the goals aligned was so important.
Yeah, and communication is paramount and all of that, right? So, all right, I think that's about the time we have for today. I'm sure there's more that we can come up with on partnerships.
Anybody wants to dig in deeper and send us partnership questions, I know I get them individually all the time, but we'll bring this topic back in a couple weeks, and we'll just hit on the questions that come in as a result of this.
All right, everybody, this is Paradigm Playbook. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, subscribe, and share.
Well, even if you didn't enjoy it,
please like, subscribe, and share.
Anyway, thank you, everyone. Make it a great day.
If you have any business-related questions, feel free to send them over to us at playbook@paradigmplaybook.com. We're here to help.